Hello, I'm your host, Giselle Gamby, and this is the Intuitive Pull Podcast, where together we'll embrace the plans we did not make yet, unfold businesses and lives that are so much greater in wealth in all ways than any business or life plan could ever achieve. My wish is that you make intuition your most trusted advisor. So buckle up, get present, and let's go. Hello, gorgeous listeners. Welcome back, and welcome to the new listeners. It's Monday, the 28th of March, 2022, and I've just finished, as of Saturday, a retreat with my amazing coach and his coachees. And so this episode really is an encapsulation of the profound takeaways that I received on that retreat. And it is absolutely relevant to all of you. I am 100% sure of that. So I look forward to this episode being quite a powerful one for you. I felt very full on this retreat. It was 3 days. 3 hours in the middle of the day on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and with implementation time before and after. And it was online. On Saturday morning, I was appreciating how full I was feeling and how appreciative I was feeling at remembering and reconnecting with why I do what I do. I remembered and viscerally reconnected with, the greatest joy for me is about seeing the ripples of impact that occur when someone remembers who they are. And it's always been that for me. Somebody coming to coach just for a self-centered reason, just for them, and there is no space or desire for that to be of service to anybody else, isn't enough for me. It's not enough for me. It's always been about leadership. And when I talk about that, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you need to be the president of the United States, right? It can be leadership at home through leadership of self always. There is no greater or lesser version of leadership. So I really want to make that clear. It starts with self, and then the ripples occur from that, whether that be in your family home, whether that be with your parent, whether that be with your child, whether that be in a business, whether that be a community of young girls all the way over in Kenya, as I have spoken to in the last couple of episodes. And the crazy thing is, right, sometimes it's just so obvious and it's just so in front of our nose that we can forget. And I was having a laugh at myself because the name of the coaching program that I facilitate is called the Catalysts, right? And it's called the Catalysts for a reason. And when I also appreciate the theme of 2022, which is an overflow of miracles, of course, we are catalyzing an overflow of miracles. We are catalyzing an abundance of miracles. And I was reminded, actually, thanks to a friend of mine who was listening to the episode about beautiful Aliyah Sirengo, and my beautiful friend and client who donated $1,000 to her foundation, which meant that 100 girls in Kenya, in the slums in Kenya, will now be able to go to school uninterrupted. They'll be able to play soccer. They'll be able to go to dance because they'll have the sanitary means. And if you haven't listened to those episodes, they're very profound. They are episodes, How Big Are You Dreaming? And the one before this one called An Abundance of Miracles. So the butterfly effect, have you heard of that? So the butterfly effect says that, a small change over here that we think is insignificant or only relatable to the time and space and location that we find ourselves in is actually not true. So a change over here can cause a large consequence over there in a different time and space. And I think it was in the 1970s that somebody was studying the weather and they realized that a butterfly's wings flapping over here caused a tornado somewhere else in the world 2 weeks later, and thus that concept was called the butterfly effect. When I think of the catalysts and I'm appreciating who they are, I always see them as that first domino. So they go first. And I also often say this, people who come to coach with me, I often say to them that they are the evolutionary leader in their family, the evolutionary leader in their business, the evolutionary leader in their community. They're the ones that go first. And when they go first, they're like that first domino that then creates a chain reaction. And we cannot predict nor control, and nor do we want to, what that chain reaction will be, because it's infinite. It's absolutely infinite. And I am extremely grateful to Aaliyah and to my friend who made that donation, because those ripples continue, and I won't speak about them again, but they are just infinite. And so we have no place to plan for those ripples, nor do we have any place to control those ripples, because if we're trying to plan and control, we're absolutely limiting those ripples. So it's also why I work with people for at least a year or more. I'm not interested in creating resolution around a challenge for the sake of that. Yes, it gives me a huge amount of joy seeing someone become free from a state of being or a state of behavior, belief systems, mindset, perspectives that have kept them small or stuck, has had them feel anxious, or has had them know that they are only showing up a small percentage of how they could show up. Yes, that gives me enormous joy, and it is the starting place. And the deeper we go, as I always say, the deeper we go, the greater our wealth in all ways. And so that's why I work with people for at least a year or more, because it's the space that's required to honor this process of unveiling and unfolding. It's the space that honors the plans that we didn't make to show themselves, because we never see that at the onset of coaching. And so whilst people work with me for 3 months, sometimes because they can't commit to that year from a mindset point of view or for a financial point of view, what the weekend did for me and what the experience with Aaliyah did for me and my $1,000 donation did for me was it has compelled me into my own remembering that we must choose a good amount of space to honor this process of unveiling and unfolding, to honor the plan that we didn't make to show itself. So that was, as you can probably tell, even that was more than enough for me to walk away from the retreat. And yet what happened was on the third day, so as I was saying on Saturday, just before, in the morning before going on into the retreat at midday, I went for a run. And as you would have heard me say many times throughout these episodes, things happen when I go for a run. I was appreciating Ash Barty's decision to retire. That's where my thinking was going. So for those of you who may be overseas and may not know who Ash Barty is, she's ranked number 1 in women's singles tennis, I should say. She's the reigning champion of Wimbledon and the Australian Open. And just recently, she announced her retirement at 25. I know that I've been privy to some conversations where people have said, oh, there must be some mental health issues there for her to retire at 25. After all, she's seeing a coach. And my intuition is telling me this was not decided from a place of fear within herself or anxiety or any sense of limitation. My sense is that she decided to retire from a very present, self-loving and self-honoring way. And when I was with my appreciation of her and where the decision was born from, I was thinking, wow, what an incredible catalyst Ash Barty is. Because in the sporting world, there are so many issues with mental health. And so to be a demonstration of someone who has made a massive life-changing decision at 25 when she's number 1 in the world, and people would be saying, well, she's got this incredible trajectory to keep going and she's got many years ahead of her. Why would she retire at 25? Well, she retired at 25 from a place of self-love. Now, this is what my intuition is telling me. And I was appreciating what an incredible catalyst she is in the world as a demonstration of someone who could easily be swept up in ego and continuing to be number one and fighting for that position, to then making a decision to the extent that she did, where she now retires, to be able to be present for other parts of her lives. When I was appreciating that, and I was, thinking about the ripples of impact and how, that one pebble can create so many ripples, I was thinking, she's not a pebble, she's a bloody boulder. She has the depth through all the work that she's done with her coach. And she also has the breadth through her fame, through the amount of people who know her. So what an incredible demonstration. I then was on retreat and I was paired up with an awesome guy called Tice, and I was sharing with him. And I was sharing, wouldn't it be incredible if I actually interviewed her on the podcast? And we talked about that and, how powerful would that be? What a catalyst that would be. And then I had an image of a school report card come up in my mind's eye. And the image was that I'm a B student. And I was sharing this with my peer. I was saying, I'm not a C grade student, right? In the context of my life, not a C grade student, but I'm also not an A grade student. I'm a B grade student. And as that B grade student, would I really reach out to Ash Barty? Would I? And the answer would be, I would talk about it. I've even talked about interviewing Mark Philippoussis in the past. And the answer is no, based on the intuition that I received about interviewing Mark Philippoussis, his experience on Australian SAS, where he befriended failure as opposed to previously absolutely resisting failure, and the power of befriending failure as an act of self-love. I did not reach out to him, even though I spoke about it with a lot of people. So that image of that report card was actually quite powerful, because it actually made me own up to the idea that I can be powerful, but I can't really be that powerful. And so even when I asked myself the question, and I'm even feeling it now as I'm saying it out loud to you, again, every time I say this question, I get so much emotion happening in my heart. How powerful do I allow myself to be? How powerful do I allow myself to be is the question that arose from that sequence of thinking and from that process. We had I think we had 20 minutes to go quiet after I shared this with my peer, and of course the other people shared with their peers on this retreat. And I actually started writing, and this is what I wrote. As I read this out to you, I really would encourage you to be super present and to allow this to take you wherever your process wants you to go, in the context of how powerful you allow yourself to be. So here's the piece of writing. How powerful do I allow myself to be? Do I shine brightly with some limitation? Or do I shine so brightly that we are blinded by the light of love and therefore only see what has true meaning and give up that which does not? Do I constrain my capacity? Do I resist, procrastinate, excuse, turn away from, pretend, ignore, distract, all the while having a dishonest relationship with who I am? Or do I let go and surrender? Do I lay aside the voice that says, I'm not sure if, I'm not sure how? Can I really? Because who is the who that asks these questions? Is this the who that is moved to the point that I almost can't say those words, how powerful do I allow myself to be? Or is this the who that does not even need to ask the question because there is no question? It is all of you, for you would not know the answer to this question should the you who can almost not say those words not have asked it in the first place. Isn't it extraordinary to be human? And so how powerful do I allow myself to be? I allow all of it. For without the me who even asks that question, the human me, I would not be able to have the experience of being that. Isn't it extraordinary to be human? We cannot circumnavigate the feelings, the emotions that make us feel uncomfortable. And why would we want to? Because that would mean dimming the feelings and emotions that have us feel the wonder of life. You cannot have the one without the other. Isn't it extraordinary to be human? And so that is what I'm celebrating today. It is this piece, the authentic piece, that has always been the connector and the catalyst. Power is inherent in that. In fact, power would not exist without our sense of fallibility. You cannot have one without the other. Isn't it extraordinary to be human? And in the acceptance and the reverence to that is our infinite power. Not a worldly power of status and ego, but a power so great that the only plan you could ever make to bring that into existence is to truly know that it is extraordinary to be human. And so how powerful do you allow yourselves to be? I want to speak to some previous clients who absolutely committed to being in their infinite power, who were not focused on undoing a problem for the sake of the undoing of the problem, who absolutely did undo problems at times, big problems at times. And yet the undoing of those problems and the freedom that was created was not only for them, but for many, many others as a consequence of that. And that didn't mean that they knew that the ripples would happen when they were undoing the problems. They didn't even know what those ripples would be. But as I said before, when we hold space, when we honor the time and the space that is needed for the unveiling and the unfolding and the unfurling, then those ripples show themselves. And then those ripples inspire us to create even more ripples. So in honor of just some of the incredible people that I've worked with, Susie, who through her pained relationship with her mother has written a book called The Untangling. It is now published, and I will have the details of that book in the show notes. I've spoken and honored Susie in previous episodes. This is just a very recent unfolding that the book is now in the world. Cameron, who moved from letting go of his rock star status at making money in order essentially to feel safe and loved in the world, to now contributing to the world in such a meaningful way, where he now houses domestic violence victims, and some of those are now being rehabilitated. It's so funny. He said he was working in his children's school canteen, and he was talking about how he has these apartments and he rents them out to the Department of Housing for these domestic violence victims, and how recently he had been speaking to somebody senior in the Department of Community Housing to see if they wanted more apartments for more women of domestic violence. And the woman that he was speaking to in the canteen was the woman that he's actually spoke to on the phone. So there's some synchronicity there. Beautiful Aaron, powerful Aaron, who had so much judgment of self initially, who would therefore give his power away to those he believed were senior to him, to now catalyzing some incredible results, not only in business, but in relationship with his clients, in relationship with themselves, and in relationship with their partners, in relationship with their children, their families. And this has all occurred through the incredible freedom that he has within himself. And absolutely, this has a butterfly effect. We cannot even imagine the impact that this has as he brings love into the family homes, into relationships. We cannot even fathom the impact of that down the road. Powerful Leanne, who, when we first started, wouldn't even allow herself to be photographed, and has now a real registered political party, created and founded in love that is dedicated to catalysing very meaningful change in the world. Nat, who came to me originally believing that her marriage was at risk, to catalysing enormous freedom within her family, and probably the most profound gift to her brother-in-law, who passed away from motor neuron disease, as he passed away in peace. And he passed away knowing that he was valuable regardless of what his body could or couldn't do, which was a very different internal reality to who he believed his value was about when he was first diagnosed with motor neuron disease. And Olivia, who, my goodness, has freed herself from a very big life of chaos, which was caused by mental illness in her family, to living completely outside of that story and being a catalyst of freedom for many people that fall in her path, conversation after conversation, including freedom within her family. There are many other stories I could share, but they are just some. So how did these people experience these overflow of miracles, not just for themselves, but for all those that have been touched by their transformation? Well, whilst there were mostly initial issues that brought them into coaching, they had and have a genuine desire to be of service to the world. They have a heart that wants to love and wants to express from a place of depth and genuine love for humanity. So they might not have seen themselves as catalysts when we first began, but for sure they now see themselves to be that, and are overjoyed when they can see the ripples of impact unfolding in their lives. So they had the genuine desire, and you know what else? They also entered the cave they feared to enter, and they found treasure that they were always seeking in those caves. Remember that Joseph Campbell's quote, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek to find." So that cave, when we enter that cave right up front, it is extraordinarily efficient, and it creates results that are way beyond any linear process could ever facilitate. So, how powerful do you allow yourself to be? And isn't it extraordinary to be human? What a game changer to accept our humanity and to see that we couldn't actually be in our infinite power if we weren't also experiencing the nuts and bolts of our humanity. Isn't it extraordinary to be human? I trust this episode was provocative. I hope that this episode felt like you were on your own retreat. And my wish is that you experience not only a provocation, but a provocation into your own sense of fullness, your own sense of purpose and leadership, and your own sense of getting real with yourself where there is resistance, like I did when I saw the image of the report card. And should you be called to rise above that and to be supported in a group environment where there is just incredible synergy that occurs, as well as one-on-one work, and you feel that there is a sacred contract, or that there could be a sacred contract with me, there are many ways of connecting with me in the show notes, and I look forward to hearing from you. And should that not be you, and you have been inspired and provoked, and you feel that you are well on your way, and this is a process for you to do on your own, I wish you many, many blessings. Thank you. Ciao, ciao. Thank you so much for listening. I trust that you were intuitively pulled. If you liked this episode, please follow this podcast and share the love with your family, friends, and colleagues. Let them know that I'm here. And if you'd like to have more communication with me, join the Intuitive Pull Facebook group, where you'll find details in the show notes, and you can let me know about what pulls you've been receiving by listening to these episodes. Until next time, so much love.